It's been a while. It's time to make another analysis video. Today we are analyzing Pet Racer. Hi everyone, as always Patrick here. If you're already subscribed, make sure you turn on notifications, otherwise YouTube won't tell you if I posted anything. If you are new to the channel, make sure you watch until the very end and consider subscribing if you like it. Okay, Pet Racer. Pet Racer was developed and published by Techland back in 2001. More specifically, December 2001, so almost 2002. I should also mention that this game was also published by Big City Games in some countries. You know the deal. Let's start this analysis video by analyzing the graphics. Obviously, a game released in 2001, almost 2002, isn't going to look very good nowadays. And as you can see, graphically the game hasn't aged very well. Low quality textures, stiff animations, and other stuff like that. However, there's one thing that aged gracefully when it comes to the graphics: the art style. The game is going for that kid-friendly, cartoony art style, and I have to say, it fits. Everything is colorful, nothing is brown and gray, and because of that, the art style carries the graphics. In other words, because of that, the game doesn't look horrible, it just looks mediocre. To prove my point, let's compare the graphics of Pet Racer to other racing games that also came out in 2001. Paris-Dakar Rally, R2000, Sega GT, Rally Championship Extreme, Master Rally, Torx, and Rally Trophy. Oh, and since I've mentioned 2002, let's compare the graphics of Pet Racer to racing games released in 2002. Rage Rally, Racing Dynamics, and Rally Sport Challenge. Pet Racer definitely looks better than games like R2000, Torx, Master Rally, is on par with Paris-Dakar Rally, and unfortunately looks worse than Sega GT, Rally Championship Extreme, and especially Rally Trophy. As for the 2002 comparison, surprisingly the game looks better than Rage Rally and Racing Dynamics, but looks much worse than Rally Sport Challenge. But let's be honest, comparing Pet Racer to Rally Sport Challenge isn't fair. Still, Pet Racer doesn't look too bad graphically, which is something I can't say for the options menu. There are only two graphical options you can change: your resolution and the effects. That's it. There's no widescreen support and there's no workaround for that, so I'm sorry for the black bars. There's also no anisotropic filtering, there's no anti-aliasing, there's nothing really. I mean, at least the game runs smooth, although there's a 60 FPS cap from what I've noticed, but the game does run smoothly. That's something. But yeah, graphical options are bad in this game. What about the game's stability? Well, the game didn't crash, didn't stutter, didn't lag, I didn't get a single frame drop. However, the game crashed one time during my entire playthrough, and that one time was really unfortunate. Thankfully, despite the crash, the game still saved my progress, so I didn't lose anything. That's actually really good. So yeah, the game is old. Let's talk about the story. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's no way a racing game released in 2001 has a story. And you'd be right. except for the fact that this game actually has a story. Don't worry, this section of the video will be short because the story is really simple and there's not much I can say about it. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere there's a huge argument going on. It turns out the animals are arguing with each other on who's the fastest animal. Chicken is arguing with a shark is arguing with a dinosaur, and so on and so forth. This group of animals can't come to an agreement, so what did they decide to do? They decided to go ask their king on who's the fastest animal, the king being the lion. Simply put, this group of animals decided to ask the lion his opinion on the matter. The lion quickly noticed that knowing the answer means a lot to the friend group, so what did the lion decide to do? The lion organized a tournament. Whoever wins the tournament becomes the fastest animal. At this point, I think you know where the story is going, so I'll just stop myself there and simply move on. It's time to talk about the gameplay. Have you ever played Mario Kart? Oh, you have? Then you've played this game. No, seriously, that's the best way to describe the gameplay of Pet Racer. However, many Mario Kart clones don't understand what makes Mario Kart so special, and Pet Racer is no exception. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just find out, shall we? First of all, let's talk about the damage model. It's non-existent. Your car doesn't get any scratches, doesn't get any dents, parts are never flying off. The damage model is simply non-existent. Not much to say here. And I don't think I have to talk about how damage doesn't affect the car's performance at all. Yeah, I think you get the idea. Let's talk about the physics. They work. That's all I can say, really. I mean, this game is an arcade racer, so don't expect much. I mean, the gravity works as intended, crashing into objects works as intended, especially into poles, and there's not much else to say here, really. The physics simply work, and they are good enough for an arcade kart racer like this. What about the handling? Well, back in 2001, Techland didn't really know how to implement good handling in racing games. As a matter of fact, this is one of their first racing games they ever made, so clearly they had a lot to learn. So what I'm trying to say is, the handling is functional, but that's about it. Now I have to give credit where credit is due. Every kart feels different from each other. Why is that? That's because when you compare Pet Racer to other kart racers, Mario Kart and other Mario Kart inspired games usually have this brake to drift handling, or the drift to boost handling, or whatever you want to call it. Pet Racer, on the other hand, has a grippy handling, which is something I really appreciate in a kart racer. Almost every kart in Pet Racer has one good stat and the other stats are bad. For example, there's one kart that has good speed but bad acceleration and handling. There's also one with good handling but bad acceleration and speed. Yeah, I think you get the idea. However, there is one kart that is completely different from others, and by that I mean this one card is overpowered. Can you guess which card it is? That's right, the one you're currently seeing. This card has perfect acceleration, perfect speed, perfect handling, although a bit oversteery, and other cards have very understeering handling, and it's easily the best card in the entire game, and you get it right at the beginning of the game. No, seriously, if you're playing this game for the first time and you want to get first place every single time, use this card you're seeing right now. It's really good. Overall, the handling for this kind of game is pretty good. Although some cards have worse handling than others, but the handling is still good. I would talk about the cars, or in this case cards, but I already talked about them in the handling section of the video, and I don't have anything more to add to that, so I guess I'll just talk about the tracks. The tracks in PatrykThePro are pretty basic. Like I've said before, Techland didn't really know how to make good tracks back in 2001. So you can also treat PatrykThePro as their learning experience when it comes to track design. Every single track in PatrykThePro has long straights, all kinds of turns, and that's pretty much it. There are few instances where the tracks have multiple pathways, so sometimes you can find a good shortcut, use it and win the race, but that doesn't happen very often. At least they look nice, so that's something. And I have to admit, despite their basic design, I actually did have a lot of fun racing on those tracks. In other words, the tracks are basic, but they're also really fun. Now of course this wouldn't be an analysis video about a kart racer if I didn't talk about the power-ups. So let's talk about them. The game has a lot of power-ups and they're all useful. You have weapons, you have traps, you have turbo and many others. Some power-ups are restricted to specific zones. For example, in the ice world, you will also get power-ups that don't appear anywhere else, like snowballs, for example. And another example, you can also race on the moon, and because of that you also get a UFO power-up. Normally I would complain about the fact that you can't use every single power-up in the game in every zone, but the execution of the idea is so good that it personally doesn't bother me at all. Furthermore, I also didn't encounter a single problem or a single glitch when I was using those power-ups. Everything works as intended. So all I can say is you can easily rely on power-ups. I can talk about those power-ups all day, but PatrykThePro also offers many other things that I also have to analyze, so I guess I'll just move on. The video is now 14 minutes long and there's still so much to analyze, so from now on I will analyze everything very quickly. The soundtrack. The soundtrack is actually pretty good. Since the game is kid-friendly, the soundtrack is also kid-friendly. But it's not terrible. The soundtrack sounds really good. Good quality. There's a lot of melody in those tracks. The soundtrack sounds very happy, like, very positive. You get those positive emotions when you're playing. The soundtrack basically tells you that you're going to have a lot of fun when you're playing the game. Maybe it's time for some other information about the game. There are 6 worlds in the game and almost every one of them has 6 stages. The only exception to that rule is the final world, where there are only 3 stages. And also, the physics and handling are different in the final zone for some reason. I don't know why that's the case, but at least it's something different, which is something I always appreciate. In almost every zone, the first 3 stages are original tracks, but then there are stages 4, 5 and 6. The tracks in those stages are pretty much the same, but there's one key difference. Stages 4, 5 and 6 are reversed, so instead of going forward, you go backwards. Basic stuff, but at least the reverse tracks still feel different, so that's something. You know, since I've mentioned the final zone before, I should probably explain it. In the final zone, you go incredibly fast, and your cart oversteers like crazy. I have no idea why is that the case, but it's still something different. Again, something I appreciate. When you complete stages in the career mode or the tournament mode or whatever, you also unlock bonus stages. And those bonus stages are pretty fun because every single extra stage offers something different. There are stages where you can only use your turbo, there are stages with low gravity, there are stages where you can't use power-ups at all, there are endurance stages, and many more. Did I mention that Pet Racer also has boss stages? Yeah, Pet Racer has boss stages. In those boss stages, you are racing against an animal, but 100% of the time, you are always racing against an animal you have never seen before. So basically, the boss is always the king of the zone. Once you beat the boss, you unlock him so you can play as him, and he also becomes your opponent along with other opponents in the next zone. So as you progress, you race against more and more opponents. Everything I've just described about the game are things that I've enjoyed about the game, which means it's time to talk about the bad qualities of the game. First of all, the game is way too easy. I was able to complete the game by getting first place every single time on my first try. Another problem is the fact that the game is too short. I was able to complete the game in 2 hours, and I'm talking about the basic career mode or the tournament mode or whatever. So if I was able to complete it in 2 hours, you can complete it in 2 hours as well, or maybe even faster. If we're also including extra stages you unlock during the career mode or the tournament mode, and you want to complete those as well as the career mode, well, then the game will take you 3 to 4 hours max. The third bad quality of the game is, or in this case are, the endurance stages. Man, those stages are horrible. They are perfectly functional at all, but they are way too long. I mean, yes, that's the point of an endurance stage, but they're just too long. They take 10 minutes to complete. 10 minutes of the same thing over and over again. Thankfully, there are only 3 of those. And the final bad quality is the fact that the pause menu doesn't work. Now, I'm not saying that you can't pause the game, because you can pause the game, and pausing actually works. However, when you press escape, instead of getting the pause menu, you're going back to the main menu, which means that all the progress you got during a race gets thrown out the window. Why is it like this? Why couldn't we just get a normal pause menu? Seriously. In conclusion, Pet Racer can easily be labeled as an experimental game from Techland. An experimental game that's also pretty fun. So do I recommend it? Yes, if you can get it in the first place. The game never came out on any digital stores, so you have to look for a physical copy. Unfortunately, physical copies of this game are pretty rare nowadays, and PC gamers don't even have optical drives at this point, so yeah, that's unfortunate. And I do have to admit that I did have a lot of fun with this game, so if you like kart racers, you will like this game. And because it's Techland, well, what can I say? Go play it. Pet Racer is proof that even experimental games from Techland are still good. So, what can I say? Well, if you like Techland, if you're a fan of Techland, go play the game. I guarantee that you will have a lot of fun. But that pretty much sums up everything I wanted to say in this analysis video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Just